Hello everybody and welcome to your final Allegro HD tutorial. And in this tutorial we're going to be learning on how to compile for other compilers such as CodeBlock to make an installer and distribute your games for something like CodeBlocks, DevC++, etc. Now, they're very similar on how to do things, but the reason why I made two different videos is because they go about it two different ways. It depends on what you have installed on your computer, which will determine what you need to put inside the installer. So, you will basically see what I mean by that by the end of this tutorial. But first of all, what we want to do is that we want to go to advancedinstaller.com and we want to download the freeware version. And while that's installing, we want to open our compiler and open up a project that you actually want to distribute or use for practicing purposes. So for those of you who have say you have Visual Studio and CodeBlocks, you still need to watch this video, because if you're ever gonna compile anything or distribute something with CodeBlocks, it is important. If you don't have Visual Studio and you have something like CodeBlocks or DevC++, then the way you compile it is different. So with CodeBlocks, normally you have something called min.gw, or you have something like that is that you use to compile and stuff, like using the GNU GCC compiler, etc., etc. So what most people don't really know is that what it does is that it converts it to be suitable to run on a certain type of operating system. So by default, when you get your operating system, there are certain files that will allow you to run certain things on Microsoft systems, on Microsoft operating systems, and that's fine. But once you download a Visual Studio upgrades all of them. And then that, for example, so if you watch my last tutorial, for Visual Studio 10, you get new files called msvcr100.dll, etc., etc. And basically, this is when the when you download something like Visual Studio, or if you have the newest redistributable package or something, or an upgraded version of it on your computer, then those new files replace the old ones, and therefore when CodeBlocks is converting your file to be used on the Windows operating system, then they require those files in order to run on the computer. So basically, since I have Visual Studio on my computer, then the default Windows files basically are overridden or used differently, because I have the Microsoft redistributable package on my computer. Therefore, I have to add those files to my project in order to let it work on other computers. For those of you who don't have the redistributable package or don't have Visual Studio, then you don't have to add those extra files to it. But if you ever install the redistributable package on the computer or the compiler that you're using, then you need to incorporate those files. So that's just a reminder. So if you're, say, making a program with CodeBlocks on a friend's computer and they have the redistributable package or the required files, and you need to incorporate them to transfer them to other computers. So so since I'm done talking, once we go through this, you'll understand what's going on. So first of all, we want to open our project that we're going to be using, and mine is in this directory, D C++ projects. I'll use this one, test, and I'll open it. So first of all, in CodeBlocks, they have something like that's a build target, which you can change from debug to release. Every compiler should have something like this. It might not be called build target, but you should be able to change it from debug to release. Whenever you're distributing a game, it's always a good idea to set it to release, because it has certain properties that are optimized to make your program like run faster. Like the window might open up faster, certain things might run faster. So it's always a good idea to put it to release, and you won't have any changes to your program. It's just optimized to run faster. So we have this right here. And once you change it to release, you're gonna want to rebuild your program or build it or whatever. This program doesn't do anything; just shows a black window, but or a blank window. But we just want to set it to release, so then it creates a release executable file. So uh, that's that's all we have to do for that. So once we do that, what we want to do is we need to get the redistributable files. Now, if you watched the last tutorial, you know what these three files are. They're msvcp100, msvcr100.dll, and msvcr100d.dll. Now, if you don't have Visual Studio installed, you do not need these files. If you do have Visual Studio installed or the redistributable package installed on your computer, then you can use these files. If you don't know if you have these files on your computer, then you can always check, and you could always check to see if you have them on your computer, and if you do have them, then you have to incorporate them in your program. So depending on your version of Visual Studio or your version of the redistributable package, it will determine what the name of this is. For example, if you are using Visual Studio 2008 or have the 2008 redistributable package, this will be msvcp80.dll, and this will be msvcr80.dll, and this will be msvcr80d.dll. So if if you're using the 2009 version, it will say msvcp90.dll, etc., etc. And since I'm using Visual Studio 2010, then it does msvcp10.dll, etc., etc. So yeah. So in order to get the files, what we want to do is that we want to go to our C drive and or our main hard drive, depending on what that is on your computer. And first of all, you need to know if your compiler or if your computer is say like a 64-bit system or a 32-bit system. Whichever bit, whatever bit system that your computer runs on, that's where you're going to have to acquire your files from. And that is very important because basically when your game runs, when your game runs or whatever, when you run your application, what it does is that it uses the 64-bit files from Windows in order to run your program. So if you were to put in the 64-bit systems have System32 as well, and they have 32-bit files. But if you were to compile your game in from a 64-bit system, the 32-bit files won't work with the 64-bit game. So therefore, if you have a 64-bit or higher or something like that, you need to get the type of bits that your computer runs on. So to find out, it's fairly easy. What you want to do is that you just want to put SYS. Now, if you see syswow64, that means you know your computer is 64-bit. Now, if you don't see syswow64, then you know your computer is a 32-bit. So, if yours is a 64-bit, you want to go to the 64 folder at syswow64, and if yours is a 32-bit, you want to go to System32. So since I'm using a 64-bit system, I'm going to click on syswow64. Now we need three files. We need msvcr100.dll, msvcp100.dll, msvcr100d.dll. So first, what you want to do is you want to create a folder on your desktop or a main part of your screen that's going to store these values. This is if you have the redistributable package or Visual Studio or something on your computer. The reason why you want to store them in here is because every single time you have a game that you want to distribute, you're going to need those files. So might as well make a folder, a nice folder where you can get all the files instead of searching for them every single time. So what I'm gonna do is search for MSVCR, and see, by default all the compilers, or yeah, all the computers, the Windows computers, come with this file right here, MSVCRT. And then that's what MinGW uses by default. Once you install Visual Studio or something like that, then it installs these different files right here, and therefore it will end up using the latest version of the files. So then you'll require them to run your program. Every Windows computer has this file right here. Every newer type of computer like XP and up has this type of file, but they don't come equipped with these files, so therefore you have to incorporate them in your programs. If you have more questions, you can always post on my forum, or you can post in a comment below. So we see the MSVCR 100.dll and MSVCR 100d.dll here. So we want to get those two, and we just want to copy them and paste them in the folder you created. Then we search for MSVCP, and you will see a MSVCP 100d.dll or whichever version you're using. So if you have Visual Studio 2008, then you'll see MSVCP 80 or whatever. But you'll see one that says 100 and 100d. The D stands for debug for both of them, but in reality you don't need this one. If you're kind of scared that your program won't run on other computers and you want to be on the safe side, you can incorporate this. It's only 725 gigabytes, so it's not gonna really increase your file size for your game. So you can always incorporate that if you want. So you just copy this file right here, put it in the folder, and that's it. Well, so then we have our three files that we actually need to use to redistribute our game. So what we want to do is then find the folder that we installed Visual Studio on. So we click that folder, go down to VC, and if you if you don't have Visual Studio, or you just incorporated it into code blocks or anything, wherever you installed Allegro, that's what you want to find, the bin folder where you put the files. So if you put the DLL files in the System32 or SysWow64 folder, then you can go there. Or if you put them in the bin folder in the MinGW or whatever, wherever you installed Allegro, that's where you want to go. Okay, so let me see. I'm not sure if I installed it with code blocks. I'll have to see. I'm not really sure, but it's relatively simple. If you don't remember how you installed Allegro, then simply just go back to the first video, and you'll find out where the folders where you installed it. And basically, you want to go to the bin folder. So mine is in here. You just go in the bin folder, and you'll see alleg42.dll. If you really don't know what it is, then just go to my computer or something and search for alleg42.dll, or whatever you use to link it. So if you link to ALLD, then you want to incorporate this. If you link to alleg or ledge.dll or alleg.lib or whatever, then you're going to want to include this. If you want to include both to be on the safe side, then you can. It's up to you. So you want to copy this, and you also want to put it in the redistributable folder, and just paste it in there like so. So once we're done all that, then Advanced Installer should be installed by now. If it isn't, then your computer must be ancient or something. So once you get that, we're going to open Advanced Installer, and there's a lot of different specialized templates. We're going to go to generic templates and just click simple, and we're greeted with this page. And for this, we're just going to name it AllegroHD final tutorial or whatever. And for the version, it's the first version, I guess, or whatever version you want to put it as, and then put Coding Made Easy for the company name or any company name you want. You could add all these stuff right here. And before I forget, if after the end of this tutorial, if you have any games that you make into the installer or anything, don't be afraid to post it on my website or whatever as a project or something. I'll be more than happy to post it. I'm gonna be making a new tab on the website, along the toolbar, or the whatever it's called, that's going to actually let people be able to download your games and play your games. So if you have some good quality games or whatever, or any games that you've made due to my teachings, then you can send that to me and I will post on my website. So that's just for you guys to know. So anyways, if you have a URL or anything that like if you really want to get high tech and fancy, then you can always do that. It's up to you. And in the install parameters, what you want to do is go to minimize install time and select the bottom three. The top one you can't use unless you have the professional version, so don't worry about that. And you can change the package type. You probably want to leave it as 32-bit, so that anybody with a 64-bit or 32-bit computer or higher can run your program. If you set to 64-bit, then anybody with a 32-bit computer can't really run your programs. So just so you know that, you can set how it upgrades. Don't worry about launch conditions or merge modules. What we want to do is get down to the file folders. So in the file folders, the end user is going to be able to specify where they want to download the file, right? So the application folder is where the file is going to be saved. So we want to put all the required files we need for our game. So I'm going to click Files, and I'm going to go to where my project is, and it's right here. And what I want to do is go to bin, then release, and then the name of our exe. So our exe is right there. And anything else we need. So if we have any graphics or whatever that are in a folder, you click Folder, and then what you would do is just go to where your project is. So C++ projects, and then you would like click the folder you want to include, and then click Select Folder, and then it would add that folder with all the contents within it there. So you could always do that. It's up to you, but like, yeah, so if you have a folder that you really need to do there, then you can put the folder in there if your thing requires graphics or your program requires graphics and whatnot. So the last but not least thing we need to do is add our redistributable files, and we simply do this by going to our desktop or wherever we saved them, open the folder, copying or highlighting on these, and clicking open, and then we have them all there. Make sure they're in the same file or folder as the exe. Okay? Even if you have the exe within a different folder, make sure all of these are in the same folder as the exe. Last but not least, the application shortcut. You just click shortcut 2, select your application or exe, and click OK. You can change the name of it, etc., etc. By default, this should make an icon for you within the start menu, but it will make it, I think it will make it based on the name that they give it. So if you really want to make your own item in the start menu, you can always go to start menu, then programs, and then you can add a new folder. Click regular, name whatever you want, so like CME, and then put shortcut 2, get the shortcut, and then put it there, and you can rename the shortcut to whatever you want it to be. But I think it would make 2 different items on the start menu, so you can always modify it to do what you want. I'm not going to get into detail how to do that. You can figure out the program for yourself. You guys are smart enough to do that. So basically that is it. We have all the required files we need. So last but not least, we want to go to the dialogues. The dialogue is what's the different stages it goes through with the setup. So it'll first greet you with the welcome dialog. When you click next, so choose a folder they want to save it, then a verify, show the progress, and exit. So for the exit dialog, what you want to check is probably to launch the application at the end of the installation, and click the file you want to start when they install it. So they can have the option to see if they want to run it right as the installation is done, or if they don't want to install it when it's done. And once you do that, what you're going to want to do is click build or run, and you're going to want to save it somewhere. So I'm going to name this as AllegroHD final or something, and I'll save it to my desktop. And it will build it, and when it builds it, it will create the setup file that I need in order to distribute to others. So if you notice right here, it shows it will create 3 files, or it should create 3 files. So, or 2 files, I'm not really sure. But it has AllegroHD, a final, and then you'll see one that says dash setup files. The other ones will say dash cache. Don't worry about that. All you need to worry about is the one that says dash setup files. When you open that, it will show you the file, the installer that you have to send the people in order to install your program. So you can either double click there, or you can go back to advanced installer and click run, and then you can actually run the installer on your own computer to just test it out. So if I click next and install it, it will ask for approval to see if you can install it on some computers. So, and when you're done, then you have the option to select if you want to launch it or not. So you click launch and you click finish, it will launch the program once you click it. And you can also go to all programs, and if you look under CME, you'll see the program right there, and when you click it, it will run. So that is it for this tutorial. I hope you really enjoyed this. I hope you make some really great games that you can distribute, and I'll be more than happy to actually play the games that you guys make. So I know this tutorial was kind of long, but I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching, and bye.